All right, great. We are live, and Miss Lockridge, I'm going to give you back the host as soon as I can find you. Here we go. Awesome. All right, Councilmember White, you're live.
Charlie has been asked to be in. Recording stopped. I'm not sure if that's the right word. If we just started. Okay, there are a lot of people trying to come in. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. We're not going to keep you long tonight. For those who do celebrate Halloween, we know that's underway. Anyone else in the waiting area? I think Charles Moreland said, oh, there he is. There go Charlie right there. All right. So let's get started. My voice is echoing for some reason. We can go live on Facebook. That'll be fine. So good evening, everyone. My name is Treyon White. I serve as the council member right here in Washington, D.C. in the Great Ward 8. We are having a community conversation about the Marion Designation Act of 2022. I want to give some facts, some history. I want to give some facts, some history, and some background of where we are and where we are going. For those who all have been in the city or connected to the city or in this region in the last decade or so, the name Marion is synonymous with Washington, D.C. Marion was a stout champion for the people, not just in Ward 8, but across the city as a mayor or four-term mayor, a council member for another four terms. He lived a life of dedication and empowerment for equality and equity in this city and creating bridges for people who didn't know they had a bridge. He was a fighter for those who didn't know they had a voice. And that transcend not just Black people, but all people throughout this region. We'll get into some of that later on. For those who may not know, I introduced a piece of legislation on October the 24th, 2022, which was long overdue. In fact, we received petitions from some of the organizers in 2019. So we have been sitting on this for 3 years. The Marionberry Street Naming Committee submitted these petitions to my office in 2019, also to other council members' office in 2019. And so they did a lot of groundwork, which you'll hear from some of the organizers of who they reached, how they reached out, what progress was made, what some of the pushback they got, and where we landed today. I wanted to talk about, first, let me list the names of the co-introducers, because I think that's vitally as important, that it's just not one person on DC Council, which is comprised of 13 members, who has signed on to this bill. It's been 10 out of 13 are co-introducers, and one is a co-sponsor. So you have myself, you have Janice Lewis George, Brianna Nadeau, Kenya McDuffie, Anita Bonds, Brooke Pinto, Vince C. Gray, Robert White, Charles Allen, Christina Henderson, and Councilmember Alyssa Silverman is a co-sponsor. And she said it was an error that she didn't get on it in time, but she intended to be supportive of the bill. In fact, she doubled down on that. And the only people who did not support it was Mary Che and Phil Mendelson. So let me give some context to that real quick. First of all, Phil Mendelson said he didn't support it years ago because he didn't believe in naming anything after a person more than once, which he explained that's the law and the way the city do things. And we did a little bit of research in my office and found out that that's simply not true. We have named several things in the district after one person. We can talk about Martin Luther King, for example. He have a street named after him, a library, a school, and the list goes on and on. And the chairman states that he doesn't support that. Well, we noted that in 1999, the chairman supported the street naming after Harry Thomas. They came back in 2020. I'm sorry, 2000 and 2000. Sorry, 2000, and supported a recreation center named after Harry Thomas. So if you say you don't do that, it's simply not true, because in black and white, it's in public record that you do indeed support naming something after more than one thing after one person. And this is Marion we're talking about. Like, this is not no regular person we just got off the streets. This is a fighter for the people and is well renowned from the civil rights era. This is a civil rights icon that we're talking about. And so the chairman did not, and people asking me why. I think he had issues with someone on one of the committees that was personal. I can't go into details of that. I'm just going by what I'm hearing. So it's just hearsay. But we don't want to take personal matters and stop a naming from a giant such as Marion Barry. On this call tonight, we'll give a few people opportunity to speak and chime in, because we think that he should get a street named after him, point blank, period. And I didn't come up with what street. Actually, the committee did. And a little more context, I heard from her today that the chairman Mendelson said that someone threatened him. I really don't believe that. I really don't, because I know the people was calling the chairman's office, and from what I know, a lady was answering the calls, or at some point a lady answered the call, and I know the chairman doesn't answer his phone at the main office. Like, so somebody threatened you, how, when, show us, tell me. I haven't heard that and what the actual threat was. So I do understand fully that because this is a public meeting, there are reporters, agent provocateurs, listeners on this particular Zoom as well. And for that, we say hello, everybody, and welcome. And so the chairman then pulled the bill back on, I believe, Friday. And now today, in his press conference, he says he has a hearing. There was no hearing on Friday scheduled for December the 13th. And what you want to also know, and that the chairman uses these type of tactics to kick the can down the road. Now, the council will start over in January 2023. And so if we don't have a hearing and a mock-up, people say, why emergency? Because emergency allows for us to move now instead of getting pushed for a fourth year, which we'll be going into in 2023. And I'm not opposed to a hearing at all. I support a hearing, but we have to get the process started to ensure that we can get this ball down the road. I mean, get this thing done instead of kicking the can down the road. I do want to note from the committee that the government also agreed to give concessions, specifically DCRA, to the business communities for any absorbed costs. They also started conversations about costs that may be related to residents. That conversation has not been finished, but I do want to note that we do understand that there will be costs to street naming, signage, licenses, certificate of occupancy, and the government did agree to absorb the costs through DCRA. And this has been an ongoing process that existed outside of me, quite frankly. I do want to also note that something that concerned me was that when we tried to go back and push back and get a FISC, that the budget office said that they cannot do a FISC. A FISC is a fiscal impact statement. Any bill has to get a fiscal impact statement to figure out if this bill is going to cost. And they said they couldn't do one because it was not on the agenda. Like, come on, the chairman pulls off the agenda. Now you saying you can't do one because it's not on the agenda. How convenient is that? This politics, and it is what it is. I'm not new to this. I've been in politics almost 6 years, so I know how it goes. I've seen bills get derailed for 10 years because you have to keep reintroducing the bill at the end of the term, because it starts all the way over. So that's why we did an emergency bill. And so I do have Ms. Barbara Jones. Also, Stuart Anderson is also one of the leaders of this committee called the Marion Street Naming Committee. So Barbara, can you chime in and let us know what was the process you all went through to get this street name, and how did you come up with Good Hope Road? Was petitions done? How was the petitions done? Where did you go, Ms. Barbara Jones?
Thank you, council member. As the chair of Marionberry Junior Avenue Naming Committee, we had talked with residents across Ward 8, not just Good Hope Road, but we had talked to a lot of residents, and they had stated that they wanted to preserve the memory of Marionberry. So the committee and we came up with a great idea of naming replace Good Hope Road and naming Marionberry Junior Avenue will be located on Good Hope Road. It will connect with Martin Luther King Avenue, and at the bottom of the hill will be Malcolm X, and then at the top, it will be Martin, the top of the hill. And we have stated that this was all three were strong freedom fighters who advocate for our people for justice. These three intersection streets marked our freedom trail and will serve to remind us every day where there is unity and connection and there is power. And that's what we came up with. And also that I wanted to state this, and this is from Marionberry's own words, and he deserved this. He stated, most people don't know me. They don't know about the fighting I have done to manage a government that was progressive and oriented to uplift the people rather than suppress them. That's what I want my legacy to be. Ward 8 residents want to preserve the memory of Marionberry Jr. So that's the idea we came up with. And we started back in June of 19. We have so much support behind that. We knocked on doors, residents, businesses. We did not get a negative feedback whatsoever. They was really happy about it. So we did the petitions. It was a long process. We got the petitions. We turned them into our council member, which is council member Trayon White. And after that, we didn't hear anything. And as the councilman has stated, it was we got pulled back. So we want to continue this. We deserve this. The Ward 8 residents deserve this, to have a memory of Marionberry. Not only was he was the mayor for life, he was widely known, worldly known, and we love him. So that's what we want to do, our memory.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. I do want to note that in any situation, there will never be 100% of people supportive of anything. I'm in leadership, and so it's hard to get a majority of the people to agree on one thing, let alone 100%. And so there are people who may have pushback on this, and we welcome their opinions at the hearing. But do note that the majority of the people do support this street naming. There's petitions being signed. There's an online petition. I think 770 people signed today. And so there's an ongoing consensus for what the people's will is for the mayor for life, Marionberry. It's not just in Ward 8. It's just not even just in DC. You got people that's from Maryland that's online talking about they want to see this happen for this giant. And so I did want to note that. I do want to bring in Charles Moreland, who was a confidant of Marionberry. Actually, I met Charlie through Marionberry. He's been in his life for a long time, helped him with a lot of different projects. He is also a lawyer. He has some deeper background on this. So Charlie, if you can jump on and give us some historical context, that'd be helpful.
Thank you so much, Trayon, and thank you for what you're doing. This is a noble effort, and Barbara and the individuals on the committee, you all have done a great job. I was working on this with the Marionberry Legacy Foundation about 4 years ago. And in fact, yeah, it was exactly 4 years ago because the mayor was running for re-election at the time. So when I first came to the effort, um, they were looking at naming H Street, and so we went and talked to the group on the Mrs. Barry's instructions and direction. Went and talked to the group, and they agreed that Good Hope Road was the a much better option than H Street. Of course, it is, I think, absolutely proper for Marion Barry Avenue and Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue to intersect. That is symbolic, historic. It ought to happen. And again, I want to commend the committee for the tremendous progress that they have made since that time. As we move forward, Trail, I'm going to pull some other background information, uh, just for history. But I think nobody is more deserving in this city to have a street named after them than Marion Barry Jr. It's long overdue.
That's right.
And I know for a fact because I live right off of Good Hope Road, and we talked to merchants on Good Hope Road, residents on Good Hope Road, and they supported by overwhelming majority, as you said, not unanimously because you're always going to have somebody that's going to be naysaying, but the vast majority of people and businesses on Good Hope Road, Barbara, you know that because you guys have done a great job. Again, I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. And I do want to note that I did get a call from someone noting that the chairman was in Ward 8 this weekend, and guess where he was? Good Hope
Good
Road.
Hope Road.
How convenient. And so
One other thing I want to add, Treon, is Good Hope
ahead.
was named after an Indian tribe. So that's why they named it Good Hope Road. So I think it's very appropriate that it now be named after one of the greatest leaders in civil rights, as you noted, in America, not just in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. So for those just joining, the chairman did schedule a hearing today, how ironic and convenient, for December the 13th. I'm concerned about that because it's late in the year and it's a holiday season. And so we want to make sure during this call, as a call to action, that you leave your email in the chat. We will be gathering your information in the chat. If you can put your email, your name, email in the chat, that'll be helpful for us because we want to keep you in the information loop about our next steps. If you can put your name in the email. I see someone said the claim falls that chairman is not against the legislation to officially rename Good Hope Road Marionberry Way. The chairman has scheduled a hearing. Yeah, he scheduled a hearing today. After we spoke, had a heated discussion on Friday in which he was not supportive of the bill because he said he was not supportive of someone naming two things after one person, which he's told me himself personally, and he's going to admit to it on the record if I ask him in person. So he did schedule a hearing today. So let's note that. So please put your name and email in the chat. I'm happy to see that the chairman has sent his agents into the chat. We appreciate you coming. You're welcome as well. And I'm pretty sure if you lived in DC, Marionberry impacted your life directly and indirectly as well. So thank you for joining us. So also, Jules, are you ready? So during, I guess, when the Marionberry Junior Street Naming Committee was doing outreach, it was able to take pictures and document their journey. So Jules, while people are putting their name and email in the chat, can you give that display real quick?
Yeah, I'm starting it now.
Okay, my bad, Wanda, thank you. There's no sound.
Yeah, you gotta start the video
Jules,
over, Lockridge.
we should let Jules do it.
I can't because I'm streaming.
Video didn't show.
It showed, but you didn't have audio and you weren't starting from the beginning.
Okay, let me
Start
start.
again.
Let me start again.
When you do the shared screen, make sure you're sharing your audio too.
And I just lost the video.
Um,
Let me pull it back up. Man,
While you're doing that, Wanda, don't stress too bad. We'll figure it out. I
We have
did
a
want to take, if you can, if you know how to use the raise your hand feature on your screen, I did want to take any questions or comments from the audience. I see Kamon Freeman with his hand raised, so we'll jump to you, Kamon, for question and comment.
Yeah, peace, family. I'm glad you guys are responding to this, but I want to make sure this. I'm sorry. I thought I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is just another example of anti-blackness. It kind of like really infuriates me to hear people trying to justify the validity of having a street named after Marion Barry. I think that we should go ahead and dead that. Is that goes without saying. You know, what we really need to focus on is the fact that the same people that were hounding Marion Barry when he was alive, the same people that conspired millions of dollars on a federal investigation to set him up, to get him out of office, to speed up the wheels of gentrification and displacement in the city, are still here with us. And point I like to make is that Mary Che, who I say publicly is a racist, is the only council member who is still against the name change since Chairman Phil has rescinded his previous position, obviously. But I just want to make sure that we're clear, because we have to be able to say who our friends are and who our enemies are unequivocally. Because you know, for us to sit here and try to justify the track record of Man Barry to be deem him worthy is passe. So let's just be real about that. Acknowledge what we're up against. This is another extension of anti-blackness, and I think that the fact that you moved from 8th Street to Good Hope Road is really better. I know some people would think 8th Street is the bigger block and what have you, but I think that he would want to be where the people is. That's the ward he chose to in his career. That's the ward he actually lost his life in. And the fact is also 11th Street Bridge will soon be a national tourist attraction. So whenever it's completed, I don't know what year exactly it's going to be completed, 24, 25, if we survive past 24, but anyway, that will cause people that come to this city to buy those whack ass CIA hats and FBI hats and stuff. They're going to be coming to Ward 8. They're going to be coming to this pedestrian bridge. And guess what? They're going to see the intersection of Marion Barry. Is it Marion Barry Way? Marion, what we calling it? What we calling it, Trey?
Marion Barry.
Cranberry Avenue.
Marion Barry Avenue. Okay. The corner of Martin Luther King Avenue and Marion Barry Avenue. That intersection would be there, the next national attraction in the nation's capital. And that's what we should be fighting for. But we got to make sure that we say unequivocally that anyone that is against it is exhibiting anti-blackness, and the same enemies that he had in life, he still have in death. And we need to better call them out and make sure that that's said on record. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you,
Councilman,
sir.
you may be ready for the video if you like.
All right, let me see if we have any more hands up briefly. Alex Hers. Alexis Hers. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I was just applauding the brother that just spoke. That was all.
All right, thank you. Go right ahead, Wanda. And if you have a question or comment, please put it in the chat. I see WSA9 is here as well. Thank you for joining us. Commissioner Dolfo. Commissioner McKinney.
Okay, still difficulties. So let's just go on, council member. Oh, I have someone that helped me out here, so we may get some assistance.
If you want to make me co-host, I might be able to share it.
Well, let's try
Good.
that.
Plus, there's pictures as well.
So for the record, I will be following up with the chairman, hopefully tonight, about what consensus we can come to make this happen. We can always talk about what we disagree on, but we want to spend some energy on what we can agree on to make this happen. We do want to hear from residents as well. I think the committee has done a lot of footwork, but you know, the war is changing every day. And we have a commitment not only to name Go Road after Marion, but also clean it up. There's extensive conversations with the methadone clinic there, the ANC commissioner there, myself, and I think the Office of Attorney General was involved at some point to try to relocate that center. And so there is some effort on government and community to clean that area up as well. So I do want to note that to the residents that we want to beautify that whole area down there that has been an eyesore for quite some time. Wanda, are you ready? I see our State Board of Education Representative, Dr. Colleen Reed has her hand.
I'm gonna try, council member, real quick.
Okay. And if it don't work, it's cool.
So
Do we have audio?
I honestly believe
It's
that
working.
Oh, it's working? Okay, cool. All right, here we go, guys.
No sound now. It was working. Now it's not working.
go to Marion Barry Junior Avenue in Southeast, because I believe that, we need
Sorry.
change, and that is a legacy that will never, be forgotten. And people need to understand that, realize that, and so we can, work together, with all of our people and stand for something and, do what we gotta do and make change out here.
Oh, Mr. Strong, how are you today? Myself. All right, and from 1 to 10, I'm a 10. From 1 to 10, you're a 10, and that's all right. How long have you been living in the city, Mr. Strong? 69 years. 69 years. I know you've seen a lot of things change, and you're familiar with the Mayor for Life, Marion Barry, correct? Well, see, back in the day when I was coming up, I remember he started Pride Corporation. Yes. And I was young then, and he didn't not only do Pride, he did Project Bill. Yes. That's our city, and we look forward to a whole lot of people haven't really know the legacy of Marion Barry. He was the mayor for the city. Yes. He helped us, but people couldn't help themselves. Yeah. And he kept the food stamp program going. Yeah. In life, some people got to realize that. Yeah. Absolutely. And see, in life, Marion Barry, she uttered the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Yes. Yes. And when he was up at I went to view his office up at the Wilson. Yeah. We want to thank you so much for your comment. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, a citizen of the Ward 8 District of Columbia here in Washington, D.C., where we are working to change Good Hope Road to Marion Barry Junior Avenue. His life, his legacy lives on.
Thank you. That made my heart well just to see that, just to know the history, and he has impacted so many different generations. It's amazing. Dr. Colleen Reed, who's our State Board of Education representative, you got something to add or question?
Yes, good evening, Councilmember White and everyone on this call. I first appreciate Councilmember for hosting this conversation amongst community members, because we need to do this more amongst ourselves so we can get on the same page about what we agree upon. It was good to hear from Ms. Barbara, the history behind the selection process. I live on 15th and Good Hope. I will also be, I guess, transparent about just some of my background. My dad was a trucker who helped build DC. When I asked my dad in 2019, I believe, Ms. Barbara, after having this conversation, our ANC meeting, I had to call him like, Dad, can you tell me more about Marion Barry? And he was like, he gave Black truckers opportunity to get the contracts. So it helped me kind of like level set the, I guess, again, the how enormous of a feat that we're taking on. My hesitancy right now is because I live right here on 15th and Good Hope. I see the current state of Good Hope Road. A lady just got shot on Thursday, preceded by 40 rounds 2 weeks ago. So I want to name something after Mr. Berry. I'm like, can we get the 11th Street Bridge? Can we get the park? Something that honors fully his legacy, but I am happy to hear more about why specifically Good Hope Road. And I'm happy to hear too, Councilmember, like there are efforts to clean it up and support the true legacy of him. And I really just wanted to raise that because I look at like Martin Luther King Avenue in a lot of parts of our country where it's often the most honored but most dilapidated street in whatever city that is. And I don't want to honor Mr. Berry in that way. So I'm happy to listen, but I will say my hesitancy is because currently I live right here on Good Hope and 15th. That's not the legacy that my dad described to me. So I want to support us in getting something named after him. I already know the city has named 441 4th Street after him, and they didn't do a good job of renovating that building. It's the same way with bronze letters. So I want to make sure that we are fully, doing all that we can to really build a monument for him that's really reflective of all the things that he's done for our city. So I appreciate the time on the microphone. I'm happy to support anything our community rallies behind, the things like you said that we all agree upon, but I just want something that brings honor. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for that, Dr. Reed. I think that we all agree to that. As you know, and you're probably more active than most. And I know we have some of the commissioners on here as well that's in that ANC and even in that single member district. And so we've had ongoing conversations with MPD, Department of Behavioral Health, because there's a lot of substance abuse happening in that area, with the police department in that area. Just as when we was in that meeting, Commissioner McKinney was last week, a week before last. And so we are having those hard conversations about a true vision for revamping that area to make it vibrant, where people can feel safe, and not just feel safe, but actually be safe in that area. And we have a long history of substance abuse in this community, stemming from the crack epidemic that crippled Blacks, not just in Washington, D.C., but across the nation, across the world. And so we're not ignoring it at all. We are addressing it. But we also have to note that the mayor's office on gun violence prevention is targeting that area with additional resources to revamp that area of the 151 blocks. That's the block that they are focused on at the moment. And so we are in contact with Director Linda Holly Hopper to figure out what resources they are pouring into that community to connect it. We also building a state-of-the-art recreation center right across the street from you, Dr. Reed, waiting for DGS to get the RFP out so we can get that new recreation center built to get our students and our young people, even our adults and pets, opportunity to play off the street, and it's something constructive right there in that community. And we have a senior wellness center also that will be built in that community behind Q Street as well. So there are a lot of things happening, but again, we are a long way from where we need to be. So Bob, I think the question was asked, how did we land on Good Hope Road? I don't know the answer to that, so you can help us figure that out.
Okay, I can repeat it again. We had stated that, it will connect to Martin Luther King Avenue at the bottom of the hill, and Malcolm X connects to Martin Luther King. So there will be Maryberry Jr. Avenue. And we had stated that these three intersection streets mark our freedom trail and will serve us to remind us every day where there's unity, connection, and power. And there's power. That's what we did. We We said it'll be, it's coming off the 11th Street Bridge. You got Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. Then you have Marion Avenue. And then you go further up, it's Malcolm X. We got 3 heroes. And that's what we talked about, that legacy. Well,
Thank you, Barbara. Also, there's an online petition that we will put in the chat for people to go sign up. There's a hearing at 10 o'clock a.m. Via Zoom, December the 13th. And we're going to have a day of action, which we'll be emailing those who put their email in the chat and making a public announcement, because December the 13th is way too far off. And we want to ensure from the council member tonight or by the morning, I know I'm going to call them back tonight to ensure we can get this back on the agenda and ready for a full vote, especially with there's very rarely a controversial bill that has 11 members on it. Very rarely. In my 6 years on the council, very rarely. And so there's an overwhelming of support from people across the city, from different ethnicities, background, ages, and religions. And so we want to unite on that front to get this named, and we're not going to let one person stop it. And so I think the chairman is coming around. So we look forward to keep applying pressure throughout the week. We're not letting up, even though December 13th is far off. We want to make sure we organize to get as many people as possible in the hearing to testify about the greatness of this man and why they support this hearing, because they are going to be naysayers. I don't want you to think that everybody's on the Marion bandwagon. That's not the case. And I do know that they are going to be naysayers on that particular hearing. And so we got to make sure we have a voice that's louder, because that man was loved. I fulfilled his seat here in Ward 8, and people can't stop talking about his greatness and what he meant to them directly. I'm talking about personal stories. I never met anyone that has so many personal stories from one man. I started to believe all this can't be true with all these personal stories, but indeed it is. And so put that on your calendar. We will be sending an email out. As a follow-up before we close. Any more comments or questions before we close?
Councilmember White, may I ask a question, please? This is Miss Green.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Councilmember, for all you do and for hosting this meeting. And thank you to everyone for being on here. I just guess I'm a little bit confused because I don't understand what is the resistance? Is there a reason? Is there a reason for the resistance? I just don't understand.
So I can't speak for another person. I can only speak to what was communicated to me. Initially, there was a conversation about the street naming. And in that time, there was a building named after Marion Barry, which was the 441 Judiciary Square building. And so the chairman was against that, naming 2 things after a person. And then he said he didn't agree with the emergency. And I know historically on the council, emergencies tend to push the needle forward when there's a bit of resistance. And we shouldn't have to do one. But in this case, we're running out of time, being as though November is tomorrow, December is coming up. We have to start all the way over again next year. So that's pretty much what I heard. And I can't speak for the chairman. I can only speak for what he said to me personally.
Thank you.
Trying to see if there's any more. All right. Well, I do want to thank you all for joining. I see community justice. I'll take this last one and we'll wrap up with next steps.
Thank you, Councilman White. I just want to say, with all these streets that's named after people who are legends, who sacrifice for us, Marion Barry deserves a street. I remember summer jobs because of him, learning skills because of him, being able to, he was obtainable. What I'm asking Councilman White, can we please help those people like he did in those communities that's named after legends? Can we empower those people? Because the streets are named after people who have done that. All I'm asking is it's time to empower them. And that's all. I definitely approve of the street, and whatever you need, my email is in the chat. He deserves that. Thank you.
Thank you. And absolutely. I think that takes a community effort. Each one reach one. I think their Facebook page have people ask questions on Facebook, but we said we're gonna close out at 8. I try to send it at 8:30. I understand. See, the chairman is supposed to join on this meeting now. If the chairman is here, he can chime in.
Hi, council member. The chairman is joining the meeting at the moment. If we are able to stay on for a minute or two.
Is he on the meeting or is he not on the meeting?
I'm looking for him to come in. I'll make certain that he's in as soon as I see his name pops up in the waiting room.
We'll give a moment for the chairman to join.
He's coming in now, sir.
Thank you. Chairman Minister, you here, you can join right in to give your comments and your position on this street naming.
Thank you, council member. Thank you, council member. There's been some misinformation about what's going on here. The committee is going to have a hearing on December 13th. This is a proposal to officially change the name of Good Hope Road. That means everyone who lives on Good Hope Road will have to change their address. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there ought to be a public hearing, and our rules require that there has to be a public hearing. My view is that there should be a public hearing before we change the name rather than after we change the name. I think that's pretty simple. And I know that there's been some talk about how I'm opposed to the bill. I'm not opposed to the bill. I want to hear what the public has to say. The hearing is December 13th. Folks can sign up to testify at the hearing. 3 minutes. They can sign up for the hearing, go to the committee of the whole website to get directions on how to sign up. But there's been some suggestion that somehow I'm blocking the bill, and that's not true. And I just want to hear from the public before we make a decision.
So the chairman, typically council members put bills on the emergency legislation to get heard on Tuesday. It has to be filed by a certain time. And you took the bill off for the agenda for tomorrow. Is that correct or incorrect?
Well, typically we do street namings. In fact,
is that correct or incorrect, Chairman?
We've never done a street naming without there being a public hearing.
So you didn't answer the question, Chairman.
And the question is what? Typically members can put whatever they want to on the agenda. No, that's not correct.
Chairman, the question was, you said you're not opposed to the bill, but you said you wanted a hearing, but you said, I'm asking, did you take it off the agenda for tomorrow for a vote? That's the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman, you also stated that you were threatened. Is that accurate? Because I'm hearing that from several.
And I'm hearing that you've said that that's not true, or somehow that I made that up. That's not true. When I came into my office this morning, the person who works at the receptionist desk said she'd gotten at least one call that was threatening, and we referred it to to PSD, which is Protective Services Division.
Okay, so it wasn't you directly. So what was the threat?
I believe the threat was that somebody was willing to go to jail over suggesting that they were willing to commit a crime.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity on that. So what's the process, Chairman? Because I know you gave the December 13th date. What assurances that you can give people that this will be a process done during this year, that we don't have to start all over next year?
Well, it won't be completed this year because the bill was introduced too late in the council session, but the hearing will be December 13th. We'll see what the public says at the hearing on December 13th. I was talking to somebody the other day who was very close to Marion Barry, very close to him, and said Marion would never want to do this without a public hearing. So we'll have the hearing. Assuming that people come in supportive, the bill will get reintroduced in January and we'll move it in the spring.
So that I'm gonna just be transparent, Chairman, and we're gonna have an offline conversation. And I'm all for a public hearing. I've said that since the beginning. But I know the process on the council, and I know how you use your power to move things around, to prolong things that you don't support. And so it's my hope that you don't do that in this case, because you do that on some things you don't support. You divide bills up into several different committees and break them down, and we never hear from the bill again. And we look up and it's still not done years from now. And so I want to make sure while we're having this public conversation in front of the people of Washington, D.C., that we can be assured there's going to be a hearing and a follow-up to get it to.
Sure, my view on this is very clear. If the public supports changing the name of Good Hope Road, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. If the public supports some other street being named after Marion Barry, I'm not going to be I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But I am absolutely going to insist that we do not officially change the name of a road without there being a public hearing and knowing what the public says.
So initially, Chairman, your opposition was about naming more than one thing after a person.
No,
correct?
My opposition is to proceeding without a public hearing.
Chairman, please, tell the truth.
I am telling the truth.
You specifically said that you did not agree with naming, and I can get 7 people on this because you said it to more than one person. So just tell us you don't agree with that. I mean, it's cool.
The law says that we don't name more than one thing after a individual, but that's not the same as if the public supports this, I'll oppose it. I know that Marion Barry was a very popular figure. I worked with Marion Barry for many years.
Chairman, the question.
In fact, my interaction. Let me finish.
Chairman,
please,
the question was.
Councilmember, can I finish?
Specific.
Councilmember, can I finish?
I'm trying to get to the.
I know who Marion Barry was because I worked with Marion Barry.
I never said nothing about who Marion Barry was.
Stand in the way of Marion Barry being honored.
You initially said that you didn't support it because you didn't agree with more than one thing being named after Marion Barry, and now you're saying it's about the public hearing. And I asked you specifically, did you stand on that? Did you say that? But you're giving a long narrative without answering the question. It's a very direct question.
Okay,
we can have this offline, Chairman, because I don't want to go back and forth in front of the public like this.
Tell me what the direct question is, Trayon.
Did you initially say you didn't support the street naming because you don't support more than one thing named after a person?
I'm not going to co-introduce a bill to name a second thing after Marion Barry. However, I'm going to have a hearing. If the public wants to rename Good Hope Road after Marion Barry, I will not stand in the way. Isn't that clear enough?
No, it's not clear enough to me. I can't believe that you would be not using your power to make this happen like you do everything else that you want to see happen.
Question.
Okay, well,
I'm offended and appalled by your position.
Me as well.
Mr. Abraham.
And I think we need to go to work man, I'm appalled at you, Mr. Mendelson, that you would play this kind of game.
Mr. Abraham, let's just talk this through for a minute. Councilmember White has introduced a bill, and 10 members, including him, co-introduced the bill. We'll have a public hearing. If the public supports this, the legislation will move.
So Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Your phone breaking up.
No, I want to hear from Mr. Abraham.
Yeah, but his phone is breaking up. And December is a ways off. And so we still have to introduce it. We still have to
So
introduce
let
the
me
boot
be
again.
clear, because I think some folks are feeling
It's
like,
like to me that you are obstructing the will of the people. Because I know everything that the public should have knowledge about, you don't always have public hearings about.
that's not true. I have
So-
more hearings
so
than
do
any
you
other
have
council
time?
member. Mr.
You have
Abraham,
time?
Mr. Abraham, I have more hearings than any other council member. So why do you say that I don't have hearings?
Well, that's not what I said. I said you don't have hearings, public hearings on everything that the public should know about, and especially the stuff that impacts poor Black people. And this is this not even asking for, we're not even talking about the services that don't get delivered because of your leadership and the stuff that you intentionally block from our community. The people in our ward, which you rarely visit, are saying that they want to
That's
name the
not
street
true.
after.
That's not true. I'm in Ward 8 more than I am in any other ward in town. So that's just not true. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen you in one of the families' houses of
I
any
haven't seen
victim
you either.
that's been
Okay,
shot
well, I was
in
in
the
Ward 8
past 2
on
or 3
Saturday
years.
morning.
Please, everyone, if you are not speaking, please go on mute or I will mute everybody.
Wanda, just mute everyone. Wanda, just mute
Raise
everyone.
your hand.
Okay,
Raise
so
your hand. Tell them I want to speak.
Mr.
Let them know
Abraham
I want
said
to
that,
speak.
Mr. Abraham, Mr. Abraham said that, Mr. Abraham said that I had nothing, Mr. Abraham, Mr. Abraham.
Wanda, mute everyone until you get order.
You not of us. That's why you don't understand.
Okay, so I was in
Please raise
Ward,
your hands to be recognized.
I was in Ward 8 on Saturday. I'm in Ward 8 probably more often than I am in any other ward.
Okay, Councilmember White, Ms. Berry has her hand raised. And if
Ms.
you
Core
have,
Masters Berry.
please raise your hand.
Yes,
I
please.
didn't get a chance to address Mr. Mendelson. He said my name.
Your phone is going in and out.
Mr. Muhammad, can we raise your hand and I'll recognize you, please? Let's just try to keep this in order if we can, please.
That's Jahar Abraham.
Oh, okay. Hey, Jahar, but thank you for raising your hand, Ms. Berry.
Ms. Berry.
If you're
You gotta
speaking,
mute
Ms. Berry,
yourself.
you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you? Put the phone on speaker.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now. Is the chairman still there?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, I'm waiting for everybody to stop talking. Thank you, Mr. White, for your leadership. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support of the people there. I've not been an active part of this because the chairman is the leader of this ward and this is his bill. But the council member is the leader of the movement and he's the leader of our ward. But that was my husband. And for Chairman Phil Mendelson to ever speak to what Marion wouldn't want is a crime and it's disrespectful. And what I'm dealing with is the disrespect of the chairman of the city council of the nation's capital to go to my community, to the community that Trayon White represents, and go into Marbury Plaza and go up and down good off of the chairman of the city council prior to showing up at an event, sitting down talking about what he wants to do, and yet he is going into our community trying to find out if our community supports somebody who has supported them. That was inappropriate. It was disrespectful, and I can't imagine him doing that in Ward 6, 2, 3, or 1. And that's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the disrespect, Mr. Chairman. And there are contradictions in everything that you say, and there's a lack of truth in it also. The people of Ward 8 want what they want. Now, they don't mind having a conversation about it, but for you to block it, there's an agenda there. And I will stand on the top of any mountain and announce that. And I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't involved in this. I didn't initiate the legislation. I didn't even know about it until it went forward. But for you to take the unmitigated gall to speak about what Marion wouldn't want is you interfering in Ward 8 politics. What Marion wouldn't want is you walking the streets of Ward 8 and going into Marbury Plaza, a place that has been besieged with all kinds of problems. You didn't walk in there and ask, can I do anything? Are you okay? What can we do to help you? You walked in there to ask our people, would they not want a city named after the person that meant so much to them? Maybe not to you. So when you get on the call, don't you ever, as long as you are in that seat, talk about what Marion wouldn't want, because you don't know. Because if what Marion wanted, you wouldn't be on this call right now, and we wouldn't be having this conversation, because the people have spoken, the chairman has represented, there can be a hearing after that legislation is passed. You saw that the votes were to pass it, and you blocked it, as you do a lot of things. You know, I've been a victim of you. So I know who you are, and I know how you operate. But whatever you want to do, you can do it, because that's your right. But you don't have a right to talk about what my husband would want. Because if you had the right to say that, he would say he wouldn't want you doing what you're doing to disrespect my community, my leader, and my people. And I'm done.
Well, if I could respond,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the fundamental issue
Thank you,
is
Chairman.
that I don't believe we should pass legislation and then have a hearing about the legislation that's already been passed. If we want to hear from the public, we hear from the public first.
Can I
Nothing
speak
more
now?
complicated, nothing more complicated than that.
Can I-
Want to hear from the public first.
So I think that he's made it clear that we have a job to do when it comes to Chairman Mendelson. Everybody knows, and most of the people on this call, we don't talk to each other and we don't get along most of the time. But on this, I think this is a call to action. You will not get away with this, Mr. Mendelson. I promise you, I stay out of your way. But on this, you won't, because I agree with Ms. Barry. The condescending disrespect that's coming from you right now is not going to be tolerated. I promise.
Shahar, what am I trying to get away with other than having public input?
You don't always have public input when you do some of the stuff you do.
Like what?
If you did,
We have emergency bills every hearing, Chairman. You know that. Come on now. Without a public hearing, we have emergencies all the time.
Not a street naming.
We talking about things that affect people every day. You just trying to zero on the street naming. We have public hearings. I mean, we have emergencies all the time that don't have public hearings. And I agree to having a public hearing, but we should still be doing an emergency. So
This street naming would officially change.
I didn't came outside of my house personally and went outside and realized that DDOT then put these big old things in the middle of the street that affect me from moving in and out of my house. I didn't got calls. There's so many things that happen in the city that people don't want and don't agree with that happens in the city. So that's not like this is an anomaly. It happens all the time through this government, both executive and legislative. I'm gonna digress and jump to Mr. Lois Walker. Mr. Lois, and I'll come back to you, Chairman. You gotta unmute yourself.
Hello, council member, chairman, and everyone. I just have one question. Now, you're saying you need a hearing. What about all of the petitions that were signed from the residents in that area? That doesn't make a statement? That wasn't good enough?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen it.
Is that being overlooked? Because we did, and I did help. We canvassed for weeks. Probably, I think about a month, if Barbara can quote me on the time frame, that we went door to door, talking to those residents in that area that said that they were for it. So what happened to that documentation? That wouldn't be presented?
Nobody's given me any petitions, but even if so I haven't seen any petitions. Trayon mentioned that to me last night in a text, but I haven't seen any petitions. So no, I haven't seen them. But we still have to have a hearing. This is officially changing everybody's address. And I kind of recall that a few years ago, there were some people who didn't agree with Good Hope Road being the street that was named after Marion Barry. I just want to have a public hearing. I just want to hear public comment. I
So how
don't,
long
I think
have
it's
you known about this?
undemocratic. I think it's undemocratic to pass legislation and then have a hearing. Hey, I want your comment on something we already voted on a month ago. That doesn't seem to be right to me.
So Chairman, you said a few years ago, how long have you known about this proposed street naming?
Well, you and I talked about it in 2019, Trayon, and I thought you
Okay.
agreed that we would name a building instead of Good Hope Road. But maybe I don't remember correctly, but it didn't happen. And I
Naming a
wasn't given
building-
any petitions and
Chairman, naming the building had absolutely nothing to do with me. You or whoever came up with the idea, and anything that we name after Marion, I support wholeheartedly. So don't put me
Trayon,
like
that's just not correct. You and I talked about it. I remember standing next to you
correct
at the
me.
Ark.
So correct me. What did I say that wasn't correct?
You and I stood next to each other talking about it at the Ark in 2019.
Yes. I just said that was not my idea. You came to me with that idea, and I said anything that supports being named after Marion, I agree to that. So what part is not correct?
You're the one who's making statements, not me.
Chairman, do you have any other
Look,
responses?
my view of this is very simple. If folks want to rename Good Hope Road after Marion Barry, fine. Let's have a public hearing. It's not that we have to do this today. We can do it in a couple months. Let's have a public hearing. The road isn't going anywhere. Let's have a public hearing.
And we'll be
Hear
going
what
into
the
the
public
fourth year
says.
after having the
The
2019.
law, our rules require that there be a public hearing. Let's have a public hearing. I think it's an insult to the public to say we're going to vote on it first and then we'll have a hearing from the public.
So it's still a process even after the vote, Chairman, to get that done, because that's a temporary emergency is temporary. So let me jump to community justice. We're gonna wrap up in a few to honor our time. We said no later than 8:30. It's 8:40.
So let me just be clear.
Can't hold.
I have
He
never
came to the
said that I'm
community.
opposed. Let me just be clear if I may.
Sir, he
I have
came
never
to the
said that I'm
community.
opposed to the bill. I didn't make it up that my office got a threat this morning. I want to have a hearing. There's nothing wrong with asking for public input. We'll have a hearing in a few weeks.
So, Chairman, you specifically said that I do not support this because I do not support anything being named after the person twice. You said that, Chairman. I asked you that specifically. You danced around it, and it's evident. This is a recording. So I've asked you that twice, and you
Okay,
danced
let
around
me
it.
explain that again. The law, Trayon White, the law says that we don't name more than one thing, public building, public street, whatever, after a person. One thing, we named the building after him. If the council wants to change that law, and I've said this repeatedly, if the council wants to make an exception for Marion Barry, I'm not going to stand in the way. But I am going to insist that there be a public hearing first. I want to hear from the public.
Can I speak then? He asked for community justice.
Yes, and this will be the last point. And if the chairman has anything to add at the end, we'll give him that, and we want to jump off.
Thank you so much, sir. First and
Good evening.
foremost, good evening. Chairman, you're not from us. You don't even understand us. Your lack of empathy for Miss Berry when she spoke, to keep repeating what you said over and over again like we have minute minds. You playing with us, sir. That's how it feels. You have no understanding of what we're going through in Ward 8. So you can't empathize with us. It's clear. I don't know who the man was, and please forgive me, brother, because what you said is true. We all have a agenda right now. And the agenda is, sir, you're not for us. The way you feel about a street name for a man who was so powerful to us, who empowered us individually, he would do it. The way you're coming off, like you come in Ward 8, I live in Marbury Plaza. Excuse me. I live in Marbury Plaza, sir. What are you talking about? You in Ward 8 all the time. I'm a community advocate. I'm always up Ward 8 helping and giving resources to people. I don't see you. I don't see you, sir. I can't say I see Trayon. I don't see you. So for you to act like you here, you know what's going on in Marbury Plaza. You don't, you the chair. You can make stuff happen. We still here suffering with asbestos, lead,
in mode. So you don't care nothing about this community. You want to build it up, sure, but not for us. We need, you got everybody on this call that's melanated. He don't understand us. The goal is to get him out. And I'm done. Thank you, Trayon.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I was actually over at Marbury Plaza on Saturday to look at whether the conditions have improved since my last visit. And subsequent to my visit to Marbury Plaza, I sent an email to the Attorney General with regard to his litigation against the owner of Marbury Plaza. So if you feel that I'm not in Ward 8 enough, I can't do anything about that, but it's not like I'm ignoring Ward 8, and there's nothing wrong with my being at Marbury Plaza to see what the conditions are there, which, by the way, I think are pretty bad. So I guess maybe let me just put it this way. I'm an elected representative. I'm elected for the entire city. I make a point of being in all the wards of the city. I am in Ward 8 frequently. If folks want me to come out to their community in Ward 8, I will do that. That's why I was at Marbury Plaza on Saturday. I'm sorry if you didn't see me. I'm sorry if you're offended that I would go to Marbury Plaza. But I went there because tenants are complaining about the conditions in the building, and I wanted to observe them firsthand, and I followed up by contacting the Attorney General. I'm not going to apologize for that at all. I think that's what I need to do as an elected representative citywide.
Thank you, Chairman. We look forward to organize a day of action and several days of action leading up to December 13th to ensure that we can name Go Hope Road after Marion Berry Jr., who fought for us. And that's pretty much where we stand. It's a lot of craftiness and miscommunication about what's really going on. But I sit on the city council. I know how I work each and every day. When stuff want to get done on the council, it get done, and it get done quickly without the red tape. And so we're going to have a hearing, and it's our job to pack the hearing out to ensure that Councilmember Phil Mendelson, Chairman, hears the community loud and clear. So it's on us at this point. I'm concerned about it being in December, going into January, because we have to start the process all the way over again, in which the chairman knew that he wasn't even a co-introducer on the bill. So it is what it is. We continue to fight the good fight in hopes that we can all collaboratively work to make our community better. I know the chairman is committed to that. I'm committed to that. And everyone is called to be committed to that. Bad things happen when good people do nothing. It's time for us to do something. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Be safe. God bless and have a blessed night.
Thank you, Trey.